My name is Carolyn Tweedy. I entered the Sisters of Mercy in 1985. Do what you can, while you can, for those you can, was very empowering for me and for so many of the people that I worked with. And that's what really drew me to the Sisters of Mercy. You want to be part of something bigger.
My name is Sister Maureen King. I'm a Sister of Mercy from the Mid-Atlantic community of the Sisters of Mercy of the Americas. I've been a Sister of Mercy for 12 years.
My name is Mary Helene Jakubowski, and I entered the Sisters of Mercy in 1960.
I'm Sister Margaret Dempsey, and I'm a Sister of Mercy for 50 years. This is my Jubilee year. I've been working here at Mercy First for 2.5 years.
Catherine McAuley founded the Sisters of Mercy in 1831 to meet the needs of the times in Ireland. She wanted to empower women through education and to give them life skills so that they could be self-sufficient and they could be independent. She visited the sick, and slowly people really were attracted to that. Here is a woman who, in Ireland, women didn't own property, they couldn't speak publicly, and yet she stood up for those that needed a voice. And I think that transcends time, and it empowers me, and hopefully that I can do what she did, maybe not to the same extent, and maybe not as vocal.
She didn't want to be a sister, but in order to do the work and be out on the streets, they used to call them the Walking Nuns. They would walk around Dublin and contact with the poor. She studied with the Sisters of the Presentation in Ireland, and then she began the Mercy community in 1831.
A laywoman who never intended on becoming a sister. She used her inheritance that she received from taking care of an elderly couple who grew to love her as one of their own children. And she used that inheritance, which would amount to about $1 million if it was in today's money, to open up the first House of Mercy in Baggot Street in Dublin, Ireland.
Her mission really was to make Dublin a better place, and that spread worldwide. It's evident that there are Sisters of Mercy in almost every continent, in almost every country.
She grew up in comfort, really. Her family was well enough to do that she didn't feel that kind of poverty, but she saw it and it touched her heart. And so she began the Sisters of Mercy, not even intentionally, just gathered other interested women to work with her, and they went out among those who needed. And eventually that evolved into a community of women religious.
I was always happy that we had a woman who was our foundress. Catherine McAuley is so easy to relate to because she had the values of bringing mercy to the poor, to the sick, to the ignorant. She always used the simple things in order to get her point across. She had 10 convents in England and Ireland by the time she sent people to New York. And the first foundation actually from Ireland was in 1846, and they went to Pittsburgh. 6 sisters traveled on an ocean liner, ran into all kinds of difficulties, and at the same year, 6 other sisters went to New York.
Mary Vincent Hare, who had been professed in Dublin, Ireland, came as one of the sisters to work in what was known as the Old St. Patrick's Cathedral. Shortly after they arrived, John Laughlin, who was the bishop of Brooklyn, invited the sisters to come. He wanted them to teach in the schools. What he didn't realize was they weren't cloistered. They were going to go out into the community and they were going to serve. And so when they came to Brooklyn, they went to the local prisons, they taught CCD, they visited people in their homes, they brought, mercy of God into the streets.
I was first drawn to this community right out of high school, and I journeyed towards this community. Life took on a different direction for me, so I did not become a Sister of Mercy at that time. 27 years later, I found a tap on my shoulder from what I call my relentless God. I said, could you be asking that question again? I started the discernment process, and and to the community. So I feel like at that moment in time, I was living the life I was born to live.
While I was pursuing other ideas about career, and then I went after high school to Manhattan. I worked for a while there. While I enjoyed all that, I just kind of felt an attraction to do more, to be more in relationship with God. I felt most at home with the Sisters of Mercy. It wasn't something that I said, well, this is the charism I want or anything like that. It was more, if I'm going to be a sister, I think those are the ones. And if you ask me why, at the time they seemed very happy and they got along well with each other. They laughed a lot. I felt that's where I would feel at home.
I knew at a young age that I wanted to do something different with my life. I could have been a secretary, I could have been a doctor, I could have been anything, but I was attracted to wanting to work with people who were in need and to make a difference in the world, and maybe just in my own community. To be honest, I never thought about religious life until after I went back to teach in Catherine McAuley High School. You see it with a different perspective. You went from being a student to being their peer, and I had great admiration for those women. Many of them were there for years. They were there when the school opened, and they just gave so much of themselves. They demonstrated that day in and day out, not just to the students, but to their parents and to the community and to the people that we worked with. And I wanted to be a part of that. We take 4 vows: poverty, chastity, obedience, and service. And it was the 4th vow that really attracted me to the Sisters of Mercy. The need to go out and work with other people side by side to make things better in the community. For the grace of God, it could be me that would be in need of service. And you want to make a difference. It might just be in your community, but that difference will trickle down. And hopefully people will do that outside of their local community as well.
I entered in 1966. I had gone to St. Jerome's Grammar School, which was taught by the Sisters of Mercy, and I went to Catherine McAuley High School. That was also taught by the Sisters of Mercy. They always seemed really happy with each other, and they helped each other out in school, and there was that sense, Catherine McAuley says union and charity is the most important thing. And I observed that in the sisters that I had in school, both on an elementary level and on a high school level too. So that was the thing that drew me. My father died when I was very young, so I just had my mom and my aunt live with me at the time. So I spent 2 years, I worked as a secretary in the school's office of the Diocese of Brooklyn, and sort of got my mother and aunt ready for me to leave. And when I told my mother that I wanted to be a sister, she said, I know that God sent you to me so I could deal with your father's death. And so now I have to give you back to God. When I entered, we thought we would never go home, eat in our house again or whatever. And in 2 or 3 years, you went home for Christmas, you went home for the holidays. I never thought about the ministry. And I got halfway through the novitiate and I said, oh my God, I hope I'm gonna like being a teacher. Because at that time, Sisters of Mercy, we didn't have hospitals in Brooklyn, we didn't have colleges. Mostly people were involved in elementary school and in high school teaching. And it turned out that I loved teaching. And I worked at elementary schools and high schools for almost like 35 years.
When I first entered, it was kind of me and God. All right? It was like I wanted to ascend the heights, and really, or the depths, get really into contemplating the wonders of God. And I think God draws us that way sometimes, and I felt a great deal of comfort and consolation. But as I have grown older and done many things in my ministries, I find that's true still. I receive peace in the times when I am quiet with God. And it can be anywhere now, though. It doesn't have to be in the chapel. It is in the chapel, but it's also on the train or when I'm walking down the street or whatever. But the other part is the people I meet become my prayer. Yesterday, a woman spoke about her daughter who was involved with a guy that was, like, in the mother's opinion, really bad, connected with gangs and drugs, but the daughter was so infatuated and she just felt frustrated. I can't change that, but That woman and her daughter became my prayer that night. That's a very real prayer. I feel the presence of God whenever I'm like a bridge there in the work I do. We're in Brownsville, and this is Our Lady of Mercy Church. We are 2 churches, 1 parish. The other church is Our Lady of Presentation up on Eastern Parkway. That's the other end of Brownsville. So we're in Brownsville. Brownsville was a very rough and depressed area back when. It looks much better now, but the needs of the people are still very strong. I've been in all kinds of communities. I started out, work communities. I started out in Roslyn and Plainview, Lynbrook, where the money wasn't, at the time, not a big issue. But I find people are people. Yes, the people here are much poorer if you go by income levels and things like that. But the issues are the same. The things that, cause breaks in relationships and make life really hard. There's a big challenge here. This place is very busy, as I said, mostly on the weekends. Many people can't afford funerals today. So we have wakes, wakes right where I'm sitting would be the casket, and we have a short, maybe 2 or 3 hour wake, and then a mass, and then downstairs they'll have coffee and food after the cemetery. So we try to provide for the religious, but also the human needs of the people in the community. Some people say, oh, you work with the poor. I worked in wealthy communities too, and there's tremendous need in every community, really. Loss of loved ones, sicknesses, divorce, drug addiction, all these things that hold people down. Yes, it's harder among the poor. They don't have the resources to go and pay for the help. Maybe that will be the best. But the problems are the same across the board. And I just feel privileged that I'm able to be part of it and do what I can here.
When I first entered the Sisters of Mercy, I taught high school at Catherine McAuley for about 7 years. And during that time is when I entered the Sisters of Mercy. So the year that we study, which is called canonical year, I decided that I wanted to do something different, maybe something outside of education. For 27 years, I worked at Mercy Home for Children, and we worked with persons who were developmentally disabled. And I held a number of jobs. For 25 years, I was their Chief Development Officer. I'm currently working at St. John's Bread and Life in Brooklyn. We're in the Bed-Stuy, Bushwick area, and we are the 3rd largest provider of emergency food for people in New York. We also do social services, and we have an array of services for people that we try to help empower people to break that cycle of poverty. We serve approximately 2,700 meals a day through our digital pantry, our mobile soup kitchen, and our dining room. And we have an array of services that people can come to. For example, people can participate in Project ID and get vital documents that somebody may need. We have immigration services. We have benefits advocacy. We have an evening pantry for people who might be working and not able to access our services during the day. We have a large tax program. So we're really a multi-service agency that was started in 1982 by Sister Bernadette, who was a daughter of charity. And she saw a need in Bed-Stuy. And she started handing out sandwiches from her back door, and it just grew into this social service agency. Well, every day is different. You meet a number of people who, they're struggling. You have to gain their trust, and they have to want to trust you. My hope is that what I bring to them is that compassion and that kindness, and the ability to get them to where they need to be, whether it's to visit the social worker, or to go down and register for pantry, or to see our chaplain, or maybe somebody needs guidance and they need referrals. So my hope is that as part of the team at St. John's, we're able to bring the mercy of God to people.
I am the Vice President of Mission Integration, and I'm responsible for making sure that the mission of the Sisters of Mercy and the mission of this agency is reflected in everything that we do here at Mercy First. I've been here for a little over 1.5 years. Mercy First is the result of the merger of 2 sponsored ministries of the Sisters of Mercy, St. Mary's of the Angels in Syosset, New York, and Angel Guardian Home and the year was 2003. There's a campus with residential living in the Syosset campus, and here in the Brooklyn campus, we address the needs of people who are in the foster care system, and we provide adoptive services. I have been brought to tears on numerous occasions by the work that's done in Mercy First, both here and on our Syosset campus, because we serve the needs of traumatized and very needy children and teens and families. We had a fundraising event, and at that fundraising event, a young woman she belonged to our mother-baby residence, got up and spoke to the audience, and she talked about how she lived in one of our mother-baby residences and what that journey was like for her. And she talked significantly about the staff. At the end, she turned around and she hugged the CEO for all that he did for her. So it's a wonderful place to work, Mercy First, from the top down. Our staff is an incredible staff of people who give a lot of their hearts and their time and work with these people to bring them fullness of life, which is what Catherine McAuley founded us to be about, to address misery and to make sure that we provide dignity to people.
Well, luckily, I live across the street in a Sisters of Mercy house, so I don't have a lot of traveling to do to get here. We do have to travel out to Syosset every once in a while, but I work through 2 departments. The first department is called post-adoption, and people who are adopted through this agency have a right to have non-identifying information about their birth parents and to have some of the details of their early life. From 1948 to the present day, we've had almost 9,000 people adopted from Angel Guardian. The young adults that we work with are youngsters who are in foster care, but we have a special program for our teenagers here so that they get preparation to go out on their own. So that's one area that I work in. And then the other one, I'm in resource development. So I raise funds, donations for Angel Guardian.
The Second Vatican Council came in while I was in novitiate, and that's the first time they talked about charism and what each community's foundress and focus was. So for us, it was a wonderful time to be renewed in that aspect.
Our charism is mercy, be the merciful face of God to everyone that we meet.
And every person, really, for me, I see the face of God in them. They teach me more about being merciful and compassionate than any book can teach you and any class can teach you. It's a life skill that you learn. I think mercy is important in the world today because the world has so many broken pieces to it. I think we bring compassion and kindness and forgiveness and understanding, and I think we long to empower people so that they can go out and be the mercy of God to other people. My hope is that by virtue of who I am and who we are as a community, that we can make that difference, that we can bring Catherine McAuley's message to the 21st century.
Even those who teach, if there's a child in the class whose father or mother is ill, the sisters will check up on that after school. It's not only those of us who work in what we might call, quotes, inner city areas. All the Sisters of Mercy, whether they're in Syosset or wherever, they go beyond their ministry to people and in a practical way get involved in their lives.
I think the charism offers the world another way of doing things, being attentive to people's needs, reaching out in a compassionate way to those people who are in need, to try to alleviate suffering in people. In this particular institution here, to bring youngsters who are like not with their birth parents but are with foster parents, to bring the kind of care and compassion and love that maybe they haven't had before.
There's a lot of people, as we see from the people that we serve here in the heart of Brooklyn, that there's a lot of people that are suffering and that need God's mercy. If we just constantly remember who we are as Sisters of Mercy. I think that we can offer them the mercy that they need to live fuller lives.
God calls people, and is still calling people, to do whatever is going to make them happy and what is in their heart. I find with young people a tremendous, tremendous generosity in young people today. Nothing seems to make young people happier than reaching out and helping others. Young people want to do something for the world that they live in. I think what we need, people my age need to give support to them. I think it helps us. It brings us all together and it gives us hope.
I think if someone's interested in the community, they're attracted to the charism, they're attracted to wanting to make mercy real in the world. And you can do that by being a vowed member, an associate member, an affiliate. You can just work alongside with us. I think people are attracted to the Sisters of Mercy because they do take a stand for those who are less fortunate. They do work to alleviate injustice, and they do so with compassion and kindness. And I think empowering people is the most powerful thing you can do.
The thing that's different about the Sisters of Mercy is that we take a fourth vow, and that vow is service to the poor, sick, and ignorant. And I think that's attractive to young people today. I think young people today are very service-oriented, and our fourth vow is a vow of service. And we also are not just the Sisters of Mercy of the Mid-Atlantic community, of the Sisters of Mercy of the Americas. We have an international component where we serve Central and South America. We have sisters in Guam and the Philippines and the Micronesian islands. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for young people.
The invitation from people is very important because it says to them, I see something in you that says to me, you could be a Sister of Mercy.